Well, good evening. I don't see anybody there yet. There we are. Hi, welcome. This is Dr. Gail Randall, and I'm the host of Soul Stories Podcast, and this is my Instagram TV, so if you're joining me at 6 o'clock, you are my date. It is a different kind of date today. I'm going to talk about resilience because I just got out of the hospital, had a very harrowing experience. You know, most people would be pretty devastated. I can't say I'm happy about it, but I'm going to try to get that way. We're going to talk about resistance and resilience and what do we do when things happen to us, either as an individual or a group or a community. How do we respond to it in a way that we come out okay? You know, what is resilience anyway? I mean, a lot of people think, you know, it's recovering quickly from something, but it's not always quick, is it? I've been through many fires in my life, and so I've had the opportunity to build a lot of coping skills, and you know, through medicine and learning medicine, administering medicine, you know, you're always dealing with some sort of crisis. But resilience is going to be my new word. I think it's really important for all of us, particularly now with what's going on the planet. We're all facing some pretty major crises, you know, with climate change and planetary change, and all of this takes a lot of personal healing. You know, my new book coming out, pre-sales next month, in print in May, it's called Soul Doctoring, Heal Yourself, Heal the Planet. Because if we focus on healing ourselves, even in small ways, we can help to change the planet as well. And part of that whole picture is resilience. It's a process. Resilience, like healing, is a process. It's not something, this is going to happen to me and I'm going to be resilient and stiff upper lip and buck up, and the Japanese call it gaman. It's not like that. It's not like that at all. It's not toughing it out or avoiding it or white-knuckling it through. It requires a lot of learning of skills and how to apply them. So maybe tonight we can talk about, if you haven't developed these things, how you might reach out and start developing, so that if something does happen, I mean, it's always happening, it's happening on the earth right now, but for you personally, how can you help yourself be more resilient? So it's not just the capacity to recover quickly, it's the capacity to recover. You know, whether it's quickly or slowly. You know, when we had the Woolsey fire, the year before the Woolsey fire, I lost my house, my dream house, to a sewage flood. I don't know if you know anything about that, but if sewage touches any part of your house, it's like cancer. They got to cut it out, rebuild it, start over, and that happened to my whole house. In the process, sewage is, like I said, like cancer. They show up in hazmat suits. It aerosolized, it contaminated my body, and I got very, very ill with dysentery. Subsequent, you know, my gut health went, and subsequent to that, I developed cancer, which I've recovered from all of those things, you know. So I would say I'm a pretty resilient person, but like I said, through my life, I've had the opportunity to develop these skills. So what is your ability to withstand adversity, and how do you know if you're resilient enough? And if you're not, what do you do about it? So I'm going to talk about some of that. Let me just share with you what happened to me recently. I am a very healthy person. I'm a health doctor. My diet is almost perfect. I'm a vegetarian. I'm a vegan, actually. So you wouldn't expect anything to happen to me. I exercise. I do Pilates twice a week. I lift weights. I go to the gym. I ride my horse a couple of times a week. I love nature. These are all ways to be more resilient. What you eat, what you do, but what's more important, and I had this big dream after I got out of the hospital. I'm lecturing to a huge, huge crowd, thousands of people. It was set up like a Native American ceremony because had the great fortune to be able to share in some of those. And I was telling all these people when we do ceremony, we don't talk. We go within. And I was telling them it's more important to be than what you do. Yes, what you do is important. It's going to build up your resilience. It's going to build up your skill set. But what's most important is learn how to be. Learn how to tap into that inner part of you that's connected to all things, that's connected to whatever you think of as God or your soul purpose. Soul purpose is a big part of resilience. They've shown that if people have a soul purpose or they serve in their community, they are way more resilient than the people that don't, that just isolate and spend every moment by themselves and only about themselves. So community and soul purpose is a huge part of resilience. Remember that as we go through this. So there's different types of resilience in general. So just to get back to my story, okay, so I'm perfectly healthy, I'm perfectly along, I have a great practice, I have great friends, I have a wonderful community and family. I wake up one morning and my left foot is 3 times the size as my right foot, and I can hardly stand on it. So I go to the emergency room, I see a doctor, it starts draining what we would call pus or purulent material. They put me on tip-top antibiotic. Didn't work. So a week later, I go to my foot doctor. I said, this is not good. It's not helping. The labs didn't show anything. So she says, you have to go to the hospital right now. That was last Thursday. So I did, because I knew that this was a life-threatening thing. So I subsequently endured 2 surgeries, and they had every doctor that you can possibly imagine. They had doctors for their doctors, and they couldn't find out why this was happening to me. They filled me with the 5 of the most potent antibiotics on the planet, which are very toxic to your organs, particularly your kidneys. I had, like I said, 2 surgeries, all the chemicals involved with that. And it was a very, very rude awakening for me as a holistic physician. I've been in medicine for 40 years. A large part of that's been attributed to bringing holism and compassion into medicine. When I was an intern is when HIV came out. We didn't even have a name for it. We had all kinds of terrible names for it, and we wore those hazmat suits. And we had to supply care to these people that needed compassion and were dying left and right for unclear reasons. Well, now, after 40 years, it's so sad to see, all this talk about clean food and nutrients and compassion, and it almost is non-existent in an acute care hospital. They're so stressed. I have compassion for them, even though it was torture for me. They have 50% reduced medical workforce. They have to wear these hazmat suits wherever they go. They're very task-oriented. Let me get this drug in you. Let me stab you. Let me IV after IV after IV, ripping people apart. And I'm sure it's hard on them, but the patients are getting no nutrients in their food. They're getting no love. I mean, you get a good one here and there, but most of all, it's pretty tough. It's pretty tough. But it goes both ways. We need compassion for the patients, but we also need compassion for the caregivers. So it's a rough thing in the hospital these days. And like I said, after 40 years of trying to bring holism into medicine, it's not happening there. I'm hoping one day maybe I'll be in a position I can do something about that. We can have health facilities that provide nutrient-rich food, that provide energy-rich treatments, at the same time as treating these acute health crises and chronic and acute care. So that's what we really need, because our system is sick. How are we supposed to heal people with a sick system? And it's not just inpatient, but inpatient's glaring and blaring. So what do? Okay, this is where you need to call upon your resistance and your resilience. It's really, resilience is a better word, because resistance implies, pushing it away or avoiding it. And that's not, if you're going to be resilient, you have to be flexible. You have to be flexible, because things are happening that you don't have control over, but you have to see them in a way that you can, deal with it and remain focused under crisis and not crumble. It's the natives call it two-eyed seeing. So that means, okay, I see this is terrible, this is what's happening, but okay, this is my second plan. This also means that I need to see what's going on so I can take some action plan, and save myself from this situation. So let's go through it. There's 4 major types of resilience: psychological, emotional, physical, and community. So psychological is pretty obvious. Some people are really anxious, they haven't developed the right skills, and they tend to crumble under situations like this. But hey, good news is it's teachable. So psychological resilience is about how you mentally withstand or adapt to uncertainty, challenges, and adversity. Sometimes referred to as mental fortitude, but I think it's really more than that, because like I said, you have to be flexible. Because if you just resist and push, but that's not going to get you anywhere. You have to be aware of what's going on. And then there's emotional. Emotional is a big part of it. And that, it isn't something that, I'm under this situation, I have to learn these things right now. These are things we need to learn before we get there. So if you find yourself lacking in those things, there are courses, there are places you can learn these things. Resilience is not a trampoline either. It's not like, okay, I'm in the fire, now I'm out of the fire. No. It's a process. So once these things happen to you, you've got to work your way out with a reasonable action plan. So it's not like you're down one moment, you're up the next. It's more like climbing a mountain. You're going to climb, you're going to get to a little plateau, and then maybe you'll go down a little, and then you're going to climb some more, but eventually it's a climb. But it's not straight up or bounce up. It's a process, like I said. It takes time, it takes strength, it takes confidence and knowing that you can do it. But you call on people that can help you. You call on people that you trust. You call on your friends, you call on your family, you call, ideally a community. It takes a village. So we need to get, I talk about regeneration a lot. We need to get back to that village type of thinking and atmosphere and regenerative lifestyle. This is part of regeneration. Resilience is part of regenerative lifestyle. People face all kinds of adversities all the time in life. And there are personal crises such as illness, or loss of a loved one, abuses, bullying, job losses, financial instability, things that happen, lawsuits, or things that happen to your community, or like what's happening to us now, with the pandemic. It's a community crisis. So we got to bond together. We got to realize it's one humanity, one planet, and we really do come here to help each other. It's like I had one guy come in one day, wasn't 3 days ago, to draw my blood. He ties up my skin up in the tourniquet. It hurts like hell. I said, "You're hurting me." He goes, "No, I'm not." I go, "Yes, you are." He goes, "I don't want to argue with you." I said, "I don't want to argue with you, but I want you to see that I'm a person here, and you need to listen to what I have to say." So, like I said, it's a journey. So, these things that happen to our community, like mass shootings, natural disasters, like I mentioned, the pandemic, people have to learn to cope with and work through these life experiences together. So, how do we do that? How do we build our resilience through these types of experiences? It's not a fixed trait. Like I said, flexibility is key. There are things that are going to happen like what happened to me. Or you might get, you could be the most healthy person on the planet and wake up one day and your foot is going to kill you. I mean, who would have thought that? So it's not fixed, not at all. So the people that go, "Oh, I had something like this before, and if I do that, then this other worst thing is going to happen," and I will tell them, please, don't write that script. Flip it over, and let's figure out a positive way out of this. A positive meaning. It's a metaphor, really. Your left foot, in my case, is about the past. It's also about your placement, or your spiritual placement, or your dance. And I was briefly thinking about moving from my beautiful dream house here in looking over the ocean, where I do my best artistic work and teaching, and then wake up with the foot thing saying, no, you're not going anywhere. You need to stay just where you are and just what you're doing, and do your service to mankind, and get that book out, and stop thinking that. So that was a big lesson. So back to resilience, it's also about adaptability and persevering. It's changing certain thoughts. I call them thought viruses because, some people think, "Oh, I can't do that because of XYZ," or you've got to get rid of those things. They came from before. Those thoughts came from previous experiences, or somebody told you couldn't do it. You have to open up your mind that you can do it. You need to become a can-do person. Get rid of those thought viruses that have created behaviors that aren't serving you, so that you can get out of the mess you accidentally fell into. Research shows that students who believe that both their intellectual abilities and social attributes can help them do better under adversity. So it's important to have those kind of belief systems, that kind of confidence in your own mind and your own ability to deal with things. There's a guy named Dr. Sood, S-O-O-D, from Everyday Health Wellness Advisory Board, that says resilience can be defined in terms of 5 principles. Gratitude. We talked about this before, how important gratitude is. We know that people that have gratitude are healthier. Well, get in a bad situation. I was grateful, even though it was such torture, to be having my life saved in that hospital. Compassion. Under all this adversity, I still heartfelt compassion for these people that are trying to get their jobs done under such adversity. Acceptance. There's a certain amount of things we cannot change. We just have to be flexible and try to get through it until we can get to the other side and be more in control again. And that's back to the confidence, believing that you can do that. Also, forgiveness. I forgave those people because I realized what duress they're working under. And most important, like I mentioned in the beginning, like my dream vision when I came home, meaning and purpose in life, being as opposed to doing, is a very important thing. Being is like praying, meditating, being with that center of yourself where your soul sits, remembering your soul purpose and why you're here. There's a guy that wrote about the Holocaust, and he lived in these concentration camps, and he talked about how these people, they were starving to death, they had nothing to eat, but yet they'd find little things. I think somehow one of the women got a hold of a lipstick, and not only did the women put on the lipstick, everybody put on the lipstick. And in this one concentration camp, it brought them hope, and it kept them alive. It's when they lost hope that they died, which shows you how important spirit is and connecting to that soul part of you. So how do you develop resilience? I mean, it's very complex. You know, like I said, it's social, but it's also personal. It involves a combination of inner strength and outer strength. That inner strength is what we're talking about, the soul purpose, connection with the greater being. But the outer strength is not just, what you've been eating, what you've been doing, what you've been thinking. Have you been meditating? Have you been breathing and keeping your stress levels down? But who's there to help you? Who can you talk to? Who can you lean on? These are all ways to be more resilient. Some people might get really depressed if something like that happened to them following a traumatic event, but another person may not. They actually did some research, and they found out that this kind of stress is more common than you would think. That probably 50-60% of people in the United States are exposed to some severe kind of adversity. But only about 10% develop PTSD. So it tells you, that we're more resilient than we think we are, or, that resilience exists more commonly than maybe we thought. So it's a combination, like I said, of protective factors, and which would be like family, friends, cohesion, could be school friends, could be how well, like for kids, how well do you do in school, good interpersonal relationships. But this is what, brings us back to the kids. We have to create situations for them in their lives as they're growing, as they're developing, where they can learn to feel confident in their own decisions. They can learn to, take charge of a certain situation, see it through, and succeed. That's going to develop resilience in children. But they need experience in order to do that. So it's incumbent upon the parents to make sure that their kids are getting those kind of experiences. Could be through maybe an outdoor camp, or a club, or things they do with other kids. There's always going to be a certain amount of friction, but that's how they learn to trust themselves in the long run. There was some research that was done in 2015 that showed social systems super important in developing resilience in life. And, you can go to foreign countries, these places where these people don't have any money, or very little food or even water for that matter. And the kids are running and laughing and playing, and because they have each other. So they have social resilience in their community. Also important in resilience is realistic planning. So, for me, when I found myself in that hospital, I, began to think, okay, now when I get through this and this and this, what's going to determine my journey? What am I going to do? Who am I going to contact? How am I going to, deal with this damage? So that comes from many years of practicing that. So realistic planning is really important. It helps individuals to play to their strengths as opposed to cave under the stress. Like for me, I plan on seeing my hypnotherapist, who's also kind of a guided imagery, helps you figure out the metaphor. I'm going to go see my Ayurvedic practitioner, and of course find another good doctor. It's all a combination, integrative medicine. Self-esteem is a really important part of resilience. So for kids, if they've had these experiences and they've made positive choices, they develop a higher self-esteem, and then they can get themselves out of situations when they occur. Coping skills I referred to before, but they can be learned, and especially you want them to learn some ones that make them feel empowered to change their lives to a better situation. I know a young woman right now who has been disempowered because of her home living situation. She's been kept very, well, let's just say, sheltered from everything in life, and she's going to go into the military. And that's going to give her all these skills that she needs in order to develop her own self-resistance and resilience and empower her as a young woman. So I'm really happy about that. Communication skills are also really important in resilience, because if you could at least express what it is you're feeling, you're going to be better off than if you just kept it all inside. That's going to lead more to depression and that kind of behavior. Emotional regulation is another thing. The capacity to manage potentially overwhelming emotions. Because as you go through these things, you got to be able to regulate and manage your emotions, or you're not going to see clearly as to what's your out plan. More research on resilience shows that it's imperative to manage an individual's immediate environment if you're working with them. So if you want to teach them resilience, you can't have all this chaos going on, so you need to be able to get them where they feel protected and safe, and you're going to get a lot more accomplished. And like I said, resilience isn't something you tap into at the last moment. It's a process, and it's a lifelong process. And actually, you can probably Google it. There are courses on how to build resilience. Why is resilience important? Well, we've already discussed a lot of that, but it gives people the emotional strength to deal with trauma, adversity, and crises, which happen all the time. I mean, if you watch the news, I try not to watch the news because, frankly, there's enough of it going around that I don't really need to watch. If I watch it once a week, I know what's going on. So, and things happen to good people. Things happen to healthy people. Look what happened to me. So that's why it's important to constantly work on your own emotional strength. I tell people go to nature. I ride my horse. Well, I can't do that right now. But just go somewhere that feels relaxing and healing to you. The park maybe, or go for a walk, or go talk to a friend, or maybe your mom. You know, wherever you feel safe and comfortable is what's going to help you. People who lack resilience are more likely to feel overwhelmed or helpless, and that's going to, things like avoidance, isolation, and self-medication, which is not the healthy way to go. Resilient people do experience stress and setbacks and difficult emotions, but as long as you keep that focus, that you're going to be able to get out of it, you're going to be able to work your way through, you're going to do good. There's something called the 7 C's of resilience, and there's a guy named Ginsberg that worked on this, and it's mostly the program that they set up for kids, which I thought was really cool. The 7 C's of resilience are connection between personal strength and outer reserve. So the two main things that are dependent upon. Young people either live up to or reject expectations from adults. So we want them to learn to live up to and not run away from or reject these expectations, but the expectations have to be realistic, and you got to know how to work with your kids. Competence is the ability to know how to handle situations effectively. So it's competence, confidence, connection, character, contribution. Remember I said about, contributing to the community is what makes people feel more confident. It was what makes people more confident and competent. So, like I said, we all come here to serve each other. And if you can get kids and even adults involved in giving to each other, to serving other souls, they're going to be way more resilient and happier people. Emotionally resilient people understand what they're feeling and why, for the most part. They're optimistic, but realistically optimistic. And like I said, just keep climbing that mountain little by little, and you're going to get to the top. And then we mentioned community resilience. It's how does that community as a whole deal with natural disasters, things like these terrible shootings, 911, New Orleans after the hurricane. You see amazing acts of heroism and amazing things during natural disasters like that, and you say, those are resilient people. I mean, I have a woman I work with whose family were in houses flooded. They couldn't get out, and what's down on the bottom floor? Alligators. But they made it through. They made it through because they knew they could. It's not as just cut and dried as you think. It's like I said, it's a process. It's about knowing and learning how to tap into your protective resources. So that could be coming from your community, that could be coming from your family, and then your own personal adaptive skills. Just like my book says, heal yourself, heal the planet. So this as individuals and as groups. So just a few more points. Like I said, resilience training can be had. Google it, resilience training. And like I mentioned before, 50 to 60% of the United States population does suffer severe adversity sometime, traumatic events in their lives, and only 5 to 10% get PTSD. So, we are able to do this. Things like journaling, Meditation, I teach my patients how to breathe. I have a really great breathing technique where you breathe in for a count of 5, allowing your tummy to rise, breathe out for a count of 6. And if you do that kind of proper breathing for 5 minutes, you can increase the sympathetic, the parasympathetic, discharge of your autonomic nervous system, which means you calm down. You slow your heart rate, you slow your brain waves, you lower your blood pressure, and it's so simple. Meditation can do the same thing, a walk in the park can do the same thing, exercise can do the same thing, spending time with loved ones, and particularly women, spending time with other women. It's, these are not hard things to do. And if you can't do it because of COVID, you can't go out, Zoom. Get on a phone call. People are there. Reach out to them. So, like I say, how to build and cultivate resilience. It's a process. Develop that self-awareness. Are you feeling comfortable? Build self-regulation skills. And if you can't do it, see a counselor. Get involved in a group. These services are available, even through, social work and things like that. You can get help. Increase your optimism. Become a can-do person. Can-do people have much better levels of resiliency. Strengthen your connections, like I said, over and over again. Maybe join a church. Maybe join a club or a woman's group if you're a woman, or a men's group if you're a man. The other thing is important, know your own strengths and know your weaknesses. And if you, play to your strengths and know that you can strengthen your weaknesses, you're going to do better. Okay. I pretty much delivered my message. And like I said in the beginning, when I had that ceremonial dream, when I came home from the hospital, being is as important, if not more important, than doing. If your spirit is strong, your soul is strong, your soul purpose is strong, you're going to make it through the physical part. Although the doing part is the action plan that the being allows you to make. So, hang in there, guys. We're going to get through all this together. One humanity, one planet, all people together. Doesn't matter what color we are, doesn't matter what gender we are, doesn't matter what religion we are, what country we come from, or how old we are. We're all people. We're all part of the same human race. And if we can get that and get unity through diversity, I call it unity through diversity, we're home. We're going to make this a better place to be. We're going to be better personally and planetarily. That's the big message right there. Hi. Hi, Manny. Anybody have any questions or additions or things I want to say? Well, I'll keep you in touch with what's going on with me. They didn't find anything, but they did save my life, so I'm grateful for that. Love you guys. Don't forget to DM me. All right? Okay. Thank you. I do my best to stay healthy always and keep other people healthy too, but when things happen, tap into that resilience. Keep your spirit strong. Thank you, Ellen. Okay, love you guys.